McDonald's, a necessity for gracious living.
When you think of iconic food mascots, a few obvious ones appear in your head, like the Rolf Harris doppelganger Colonel Sanders or Tony the Tiger. He's great! Or how about the Burger King, the sneakiest of all food-related mascots?
Yes, there are Burger King games. For some reason.
In modern times, many of these icons have faded into the background. Burger King rarely brings out the king thanks to parents outright hating his rictus grimace. Wendy is just a logo, and her spokesperson, Dave Thomas, the company's founder, passed away years ago. Building on this, even the most iconic mascot in fast food history, Ronald McDonald, appears to have passed his sell-by date. Whilst McDonald's continues to be a global powerhouse, the patron saint of budget dinners, Ronnie McDonald, has gone missing. Whether it be a Happy Meal in America or a Happy Set in Japan, children are no longer graced with the looming presence of a very tall, smiling clown in white face paint, donning a red wig and coaxing them into gorging meals dripping with grease and type 2 diabetes.
Nightmare fuel.
As of 2023, clowns have lost everything. Kids' parties, circuses, rainbows, and even Ronald McDonald has now been cancelled. This came about in 2016 after a disturbing craze in the USA of pranksters dressing up as clowns and jump-scaring unsuspecting members of the public. Before this, the likes of Stephen King's It and serial killer John Wayne Gacy had already tarnished clowns' harmless reputations, so Ronnie McD was put out to pasture. Ronald McDonald is obviously now a lost McDonald's mascot in his own right. However, today we're going to be covering the rise and fall of the face of fattening children everywhere before Ronald even existed, in a time before the Golden Arches were the globally recognised brand it is today. So with that said,
I am Lady Decade, and this is the story of Speedee, the lost McDonald's mascot.
When you look back at the history of the famous fast food franchise, what was it about McDonald's that made the business more profitable than all of the other burger stands? There's nothing truly original about their classic hamburger. It's just a piece of meat between two buns with a bit of ketchup, mustard, pickles and onions. Standard burger.jpg material.
Everything's just a copy of a copy of a copy.
So McDonald's was pretty much like any other junk food, but what would separate them from the pack and help them catapult their success ahead of the competition was the relative quickness with which their food was prepared. This was game-changing. The first McDonald's was opened by siblings Richard and Maurice McDonald in 1940. The brothers opened their first restaurant in San Bernardino, California, and as the business grew, they continued to find their niche. 8 years into their pursuit, they would establish what they would refer to as the Speedee service system. What they had essentially invented were the very fundamental principles of what a modern fast food joint is today. They more or less invented fast food as we know it, but believe it or not, they are not credited by the modern McDonald's today as its founder.
So this raises the question, who was it?
This brings us to a businessman called Ray Kroc, whom the present corporation recognises as its founder. Ray got involved in 1955 after being stunned by how fast the service was. As a successful travelling salesman, he was used to car hops or sit-down restaurants, neither a fast manoeuvre. So, not ideal places to eat for a person whose whole livelihood is defined by how many sales he can travel to. Enamoured with the potential of what the McDonald's brothers had come up with, it wasn't long before aggressive salesman Kroc managed to worm his way into becoming a partner in the company. Kroc loved the Speedee service system, which the brothers had pioneered. This came about after multiple attempts to sell slow-cooked barbecue in their flagship San Bernardino store. The brothers revised and revised, reducing the menu to a few iconic items: hamburgers, French fries, and milkshakes. This streamlining allowed them to serve a higher volume faster than before.
Well, you know what they say, it's better to perfect something than be a jack of all trades, master of none.
According to Mashed, they laid out the revision process in more detail, stating, "The brothers closed their doors for 3 months and overhauled their business as a self-service restaurant where customers placed their orders at the windows. They fired their 20 car hops and ditched their silverware and plates for paper wrappings and cups so that they no longer needed a dishwasher. They simplified their menu to just 9 items: hamburgers, cheeseburgers, 3 soft drink flavours in one 12-ounce size, milk, coffee, potato chips and pie. Our whole concept was based on speed, lower prices and volume," Richard McDonald said. Taking a cue from Henry Ford's assembly line production of automobiles, the McDonald brothers developed the Speedee service system and mechanised the kitchen of their roadside burger shack. Each of its 12-person crew specialised in specific tasks, and much of the food was pre-assembled. This allowed McDonald's to prepare its food quickly and even ahead of the time when an order was placed. All hamburgers were served with ketchup, mustard, onions and 2 pickles, and any customer who wanted food prepared in their way would have to wait. Echoing Henry Ford's motto of "You can get a Model T in any colour as long as it's black," the McDonald brothers struck golden arches, limiting the options. If everyone had a specific task and everything that could be automated would be automated, there's no reason a meal should take more than a few minutes. As impressive as all of this was, you are probably wondering where Ray Kroc fits further into the McDonald's story, as their rise to global domination hadn't occurred under the leadership of the Speedee service creators. Over time, Kroc and the brothers would fight each other for control of the company, eventually resulting in Kroc buying them out for a whopping $2.7 million. This was a massive sum of money for 1961, before McDonald's was the global brand we are familiar with today. With the brothers' equity in his hands, Kroc's grander scale plan was underway, and the modern McDonald's was born. Under the guidance of Kroc, the company with its M-shaped logo would become the personification of capitalism and corporate success, and help usher in an era of marketing globalization and spreading the American way of life further than ever before. This, of course, would be the McDonald's brand fronted by Ronald McDonald, the corporate clown who would be the centre of many public debates around obesity, ethics and consumer responsibility. But before this arguably sinister figure was on the scene, in the era of the humble McDonald's brothers, McDonald's would have a completely different mascot. In the days before the regime changed, a mascot was needed to advertise the Speedee service system we discussed earlier. The company's first mascot can only be described as a sentient hamburger man designed to promote the Speedee service. The Daily Mail stated, McDonald's first logo featured Speedee, a jaunty, pudgy, winking little chef with a hamburger for a head and a chef's hat. He holds a sign reading, "I'm Speedee," just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Wax paper emblazoned with his logo was used to wrap burgers, hence the thank you. As the chain began to spread, Speedee's sign changed to custom-built hamburgers, and coast to coast was added to the bottom. Introduced way back in 1955, Speedee wasn't ever quite as prominent, prolific and in your face as the kingpin of clowns and capitalism, good old Ronnie McD. Rather than constantly appearing in aggressive ad campaigns, Speedee never made it past buildings and packaging. He was never included in promotional ads, made into a costume for some sad teenager to wear in the hot California summer. In the 21st century, Speedee is appallingly hard to find, despite being the mascot for the better part of a decade.
Which is incredibly sad for such an important part of history he represents.
Thankfully, despite his obscurity, Burger Web reports that, at least as of 2015, a handful of locations remained that kept the icon in the limelight. Green Bay in Wisconsin has a restaurant established in 1959 that has gained prominence from the Wisconsin Historical Society, claiming that it may be the only design of its kind still left in the country, and was restored in 2005. The other is in Muncie, Indiana, featuring the coast-to-coast variant of the signage. Downey, California features a historical exploration of McDonald's and its associated branding, and a sign saying, "Don't let history pass you by," featuring Speedee beckoning people to visit. As obscure as Speedee may be, McDonald's has shown an interest in reviving the mascot with appropriately retro vibes, as after all, retro is very fashionable right now. To further solidify Speedee's legacy, he's even been remade into a Funko Pop. Plastic rotting Speedee corpses will be ruining the landscape for thousands of years to come. McDonald's, now, then, forever. As awesome as it is that Speedee is receiving an inkling of modern recognition, the anecdote I'm about to tell you is even more remarkable. As impressive as there are new Speedee products, some ancient Speedee artifacts have been discovered recently. One lucky couple in Illinois found something in their walls while renovating. A Speedee emblazoned bag of French fries that had been there for 60 years.
Delicious.
But it's not just America where there are pockets of Speedee's legacy being celebrated. In Japan, McDonald's brought back Speedee in 2021, celebrating 50 years of the chain reaching across the Pacific. It's very likely that these were snapped up by collectors and hoarded. Following this, in late 2022, McDonald's opened up the Speedee Labs in their Chicago headquarters, named after the backhouse efficiency method and its associated mascot, dedicated to advancing burger technology into the distant future. Ludicrous. Sadly, if you're trying to get Speedee memorabilia today, the official McDonald's website won't be your friend. Outside of the Funko Pop, nothing was officially sanctioned for sale in 2023. Venture into the wild world of eBay, known for selling anything and everything not bolted down in the world. You'll see some very iconic items. Paper hats with the mascot from the 1950s, welcome signs featuring his smiley burger-headed grin, magnets, Christmas ornaments, ties and more. A search today shows 637 items for McDonald's Speedee. Ronald McDonald? 19,000 plus. Obviously, Speedee wasn't the mascot that McDonald's would run with in the long term, with that record being held by the same dastardly clown that deposed him. Still, in an era of retro revivals and mysterious clown sightings, maybe Mackie D's could bring him back. Let me ask you a question. Was Ronald an appropriate replacement for the burger-headed speed demon? Should they have kept Archie around? Who the hell is Archie? Let me know your order in the comments below. Now, subscribe.
Ba 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 ba.